guys, it's Sam. I'm in the new place. I haven't quite figured out the filming setup. I'm wondering if this is super echoey because my ceilings are even higher in this place than the last place, but I have my art on the walls. Hopefully that helps. I do not know. I do miss having the cozy background, but now I have an office where my bookshelf is, and so I can't necessarily have like a cozy little setup. I'm very conflicted about this situation, but I have to stop stalling and the show must go on. And I want to start filming again. If I don't just start, I never will, because I'll be like, I need to get my setup perfect and it's just gonna be a work in progress. So today I want to do something a little more fun because I love doing these types of videos. My most anticipated release is for spring. Now, this isn't quite spring, it's more like second quarter, because really my spring release should have been like March, April, May, like I usually do it, but I think I'm just gonna do like it quarterly now. I don't know. This is my channel, I make the rules, that's what I'm doing. I feel like I haven't talked about anticipated releases in a while. So we're gonna talk about books coming out in April, May, and June. There's actually not a ton. I feel like a lot of the releases that are really big are coming out in fall. That tends to be how it is, but there's a number of them I'm excited about here. Also, I've mentioned the past few times I've made anticipated videos that I haven't been keeping up as much in my most anticipated. I don't know if just people that I follow aren't talking about upcoming releases quite as much. Maybe I'm just really focused on the series that I do know. I don't know. I feel like I don't have as long of lists as I used to, which is fine because these are books I'll be more likely to get to since the list is smaller. But also, if there's a book that you really think I'd be into, let me know. First, on April 19th, we have Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is the second book in the, I'm not sure the name of the series actually, but the first book was Black Sun. This is an adult fantasy series that is inspired by a pre-colonial America's setting and follows multiple POVs, and there's just a bunch of stuff. And all those POVs are from sort of different political factions, I guess is the way of putting it. And there's a bunch of different sort of Native American inspired religions and things as a part of this world, and stuff is about to happen. That is so vague, but it's been so long. I think I read Black Sun in 2019, end of 2019, so I need to actually reread the first book before I even get to this, but I really loved that book when it came out. I really love Rebecca Roanhorse in general and plan to read everything she puts out ever. So looking forward to this, but I'm not quite in the mindset for it yet because I've forgotten so much that's happened. Then on the 28th, we have Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. This is Emily St. John Mandel's return to more speculative fiction. Her more recent novel that I read last year, or the year before, I think it was the year before, I think it was 2020, was a bit more of like a historical fiction. There's Ponzi scheme things going on, whatever. This has a number of different speculative elements, it sounds like. Part of it takes place in Vancouver Island around 1912, and then another part of it takes place in this like moon colony 500 years later. And I think there's some time travel elements going on as well. So her books, I don't really care what it's about because the synopses are always like, oh, I don't really know. Like, it took me forever to read Station 11 because I was like, I don't know if I want to read this like story. And then I got into it, and like her writing is beautiful and wonderful, and like characters, like everything is just so good. She's such a good writer that I really enjoy her speculative stuff so far. So I'm looking forward to this, and some people are thinking there might be a little bit of a tie into Station 11, so we'll see. Then for May, we have two books coming out on the 3rd that are both very highly anticipated releases for a lot of people, so I'm sure you've already heard of them. The first is The Book of Night by Holly Black. I'm not really sure if this is gonna be a series or not. I'm sure you guys will tell me in the comments, but this is gonna be an adult fantasy. Sounds like more of like an urban fantasy, and our main character is this thief, but she works with shadow magic, and so she works for magicians that use shadow magic for a number of different things, but they need to hire her in order to steal from their fellow magicians, and so she gets kind of pulled into all this stuff. There's a whole line about like her boyfriend not having shadows or a soul. Kid always wants to be involved. So it sounds really cool. I love urban fantasy stories and anything with like dark magic, soul magic, shadow magic, whatever. So this sounds right up my alley. It's also really short because Holly Black writes short stuff. I'm not sure how this is going to translate for adult because she tends to write young adult, but we will see. I'm intrigued enough. Then also on the 3rd, we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which is her next adult standalone contemporary romance. She's one of the only contemporary romance authors that reliably writes a 5-star for me. As you may notice from my wrap-ups, I have not read a adult contemporary romance all year thus far yet, so this one might be the first one that I read this year because I got so burnt out on them over the last couple of years. But her books tend to not disappoint. And this is a rivals to lovers story about two rival book editors. who end up meeting out in the, well, they've met before, but they end up running into each other out in the, like, it's a small town that the main character's sister asked her to visit, and they're both from the city, and then she runs into him out there, and so it's this like rivals to lovers kind of forced proximity situation, it sounds like. I'm into it. Then finally we have May. So on the 21st, we have This Wicked Fate by Kaylin Bayron. This is a sequel to This Poison Heart that I read earlier this year and really loved. This is a YA contemporary fantasy following a girl who has nature magic, and she is adopted, and her moms are approached by her birth mother's family lawyer saying that she inherited this house, and they like go out into the countryside to find this house and all of the mysteries behind it. And that's what the first book is about. This book is picking up after the events of the first book, obviously. But the first book was one of my most surprising reads thus far this year, so looking forward to seeing how this ends. And lastly, on the 28th, we have Locklands by Robert Jackson Bennett. I believe this is the finale book in the Foundry Side series. This is an adult fantasy series that is taking place in a sort of like Venice merchant-like city. Our main character is a thief, but she ends up encountering this item in the first book that almost is like a master key. Like she's supposed to steal this item, and then she ends up figuring out it's more than she thought that it was, because in this world, they almost have like a kind of technology magic where items can be imbued with magical properties that kind of makes them do things that they shouldn't. So you can have like a stone and you just tell it, program it almost to fly a certain direction or whatever. So it's this really cool blend of like fantasy. It's not sci-fi, but it has this like techie sort of programming element to it. And the way that these items end up like having consciousness is like really cool. And that's what like the whole sort of premise of the first book is about, is her discovering this item, and everything has kind of gone from there. So there's like stuff with that, old gods, this interesting city, and like a bunch of different tropes that you see as far as character tropes, but flipped on their head a bit in a way that's really interesting. So what I need to do actually is reread the first two books, but I probably won't before this comes out. But I should, because I've been out of the world for too long and it's pretty complicated. But I'm excited about this. It'd be a nice series to binge read for sure. And that is it for the books that I'm excited about for this quarter. So like I said, comment down below and let me know if you are excited about any of these books, or if there's any books that I've missed that you think that I'd be into. There's probably books that I know about that I've just forgotten and forgot to add to my little like list on Storygraph. But let me know. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you other guys soon. Bye.